Hi guys, Carly here. If I look exhausted, it's because I'm 36 weeks pregnant. But I wanted to take a moment to address some of your concerns about TMJ and how to treat it effectively. I get a lot of questions about this, especially because of the testimonial video on Dr. Shapira's website. And I found I almost just can't answer everybody individually, but I just would never want anybody to feel like they didn't have direction in pursuing their treatment. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I have done. And I want to preface this all by saying that I am not who I used to be before TMJ. I still deal with flares. They are not nearly as severe as what they were. In the beginning, I was literally totally disabled. I couldn't care for myself. I couldn't care for my daughter. I couldn't work. With treatment, I have gotten really all of those things back. Sometimes, I have to do certain things in a modified way, or, I may not be able to do things for as long. But for the most part, I'm a functional human. So I'm extremely grateful. But I just want to, mention that on the outset just to kind of manage expectations a little bit. So, the most important thing to do when you are beginning your TMJ journey is to find a qualified dentist to help you. I, as well as many, many others, made the mistake of going to several dentists who were not neuromuscular dentists before seeking out a neuromuscular dentist. These other dentists had, it was essentially guesswork that they were doing on my mouth. And we spent upwards of, I don't know, $10,000-$15,000 with these people that, either were not able to help me or made the problem worse. A neuromuscular dentist has, and you can look this up on Google too. So you might want to grab a pen and paper right now because I'm going to give you some suggestions that you'll probably want to research further. So a neuromuscular dentist has special equipment that can actually measure your bite, and it can calculate exactly, where it's off. And so then the dentist is able to correct to these very specific measurements, and it's not guesswork. Obviously, I mean, a lot of you have come to me through Dr. Shapira's website. He is who I would recommend if you can see him. He's in the Chicago area, Dr. Ira Shapira. And he does amazing work. He's very skillful, very caring. And what else do I want to say about that? Pregnancy brain. If you, oh, I know. Patients do fly in to see him. I know that's not practical for everybody. I was living in the Chicago area when I began treatment. We later moved to California, and I do go back to see him. I am at a point now where I have, what's called sort of my, permanent solution, which is, for me, was composite buildups on my teeth that basically mimic in a way the appliance I had for just under 2 years. And the appliance, we just gradually adjusted until my jaw got to an optimal position and until I was pretty stable. And then once we got to that point, then I kind of got my more permanent solution. The composite buildups have been really great for me. I do go back, once a year to just get them checked, and maybe they'll adjust them slightly. So that's the first thing I would recommend to do, is to find a neuromuscular dentist. I can also recommend, through a friend that's dealt with really severe TMJ as well and gotten significantly better. In the LA area, there's Dr. Jin Goey. That's Gin, last name Goie, and he's in South Pasadena. So Dr. Ira Shapira in Chicago, Dr. Jin Goey in South Pasadena. Those are the two that I know to recommend offhand. If neither of those are accessible to you, see if you can find a neuromuscular dentist in your area. I would not go to anybody else. Don't waste your money. It could make you worse, honestly. And I know in the beginning days, I spent a lot of time in the forums, and this was one thing that was, really repeated in the forums by a woman that was doing a lot of work to try to help other people because she had gotten significantly better. And she was constantly saying, see the neuromuscular dentist, don't mess around with other dentists. Yeah, so that's really important. The other thing that I believe is really important is to find a NUCCA, NUCCA, or an Atlas chiropractor. There is a bone at the base of the skull called the atlas, and essentially it sort of controls how the head sits on the body. And if it's out of alignment, your head may be literally kind of a little crooked. And then what happens, and this is a very rudimentary explanation, so I definitely encourage you to Google this as well, NUCCA chiropractic or Atlas chiropractic. So then what happens is the rest of the body then starts to kind of contort itself and lean into one direction or another to compensate for this. And the jaw almost cannot be in the proper position if the atlas is out of place. So I really recommend that people get NUCCA or Atlas treatment in tandem with neuromuscular dentistry. And the way you would do it is that you would go to your NUCCA or Atlas chiropractor directly before your neuromuscular dentist appointment, so that then when they are adjusting your jaw, adjusting your appliance to move your jaw, they are adjusting to, a position, to the optimal position. So your head is completely straight. You don't want to adjust to a suboptimal position where your head is like slightly tilted or your spine is out of whack. You're not going to get the kind of results that you would otherwise. So I believe they really need to be done in tandem. I know that's Dr. Shapira's philosophy as well. If you're in the Chicago area, I highly, highly recommend Dr. Dickholtz at Health Smart in Northbrook. He's a board certified NUCCA professional. He's literally the best in the country. He's excellent. If you're not in that area, I would suggest maybe seeking out Atlas first, because the difference between NUCCA and Atlas is that NUCCA is done manually. And so it's sort of like an art form. Like you kind of either have the touch or you don't. And Atlas is done with a machine. And so Atlas is, there's a little more precision with it because of the machine. However, if you get a really good NUCCA practitioner like Dr. Dickholtz, they can be more specific and more precise than the machine. But of course, there's that room for human error. So if you're going to somebody that's not board certified, and I know there's only like a handful of board certified practitioners out there, well, I wouldn't recommend it. I would choose Atlas over a NUCCA professional that was not board certified personally. And actually in California, I tried to see several NUCCA practitioners and they just could not replicate the results that Dr. Dickholtz was able to achieve. So I have ended up seeing an Atlas practitioner out here. And then when I go back to Chicago to see Dr. Shapira, I'll see Dr. Dickholtz, the NUCCA practitioner then. But here I do see Atlas because it's more precise. And the NUCCA professionals I've seen out here have just not been up to snuff, frankly. Okay, so we've talked about, you find your neuromuscular dentist, you find your NUCCA or your Atlas chiropractor. Okay, so that's the sort of like the crux or the foundation of your treatment. Then there are other subtle body components that need to be addressed. I think acupuncture is really great for addressing, problems of the nervous system. So as you've probably come to realize, if you're contacting me, TMJ has lots of neurological impact and lots of neurological effects. This can include, affecting the vestibular system, your balance. A lot of people have dizziness, vertigo, a sense of heavy-headedness, numbness in the extremities, the hands and the feet. vision problems. I had and still have some significant vision problems. And so acupuncture is really great for addressing some of the neurological issues. It can be very calming and soothing to the nervous system. And it's just very, targeted in a way that, Western medicine just can't replicate that. It can get expensive if you're going private, so I recommend people look up community acupuncture in their area. I know there's Lincoln Square community acupuncture in Chicago. In California, there's a lot of options. I'm in San Diego. I go to Ocean Acupuncture and Mindfulness Center. There's one downtown San Diego. I know there's a community acupuncture center in the LA area as well. Usually there you're going to pay between $20 and $35. It's usually a sliding scale. And so that makes it accessible for people to do on a weekly basis. And I would recommend doing it on a weekly basis if you're able. Another great thing to do is get in a float tank. Look up float tanks in your area. Essentially what that is a tank that's full of it's like 600 pounds of Epsom salt in water, and you basically go in, you go in for an hour and you're completely buoyant because there's so much salt. And sorry, I'm like losing my breath with the pregnancy. And so for one thing, it's really excellent for relaxation. And, we know if there's something that makes TMJ worse, it's stress, right? So it's really great for that. But also the salt is it's magnesium. So it's extremely good at lowering inflammation. And a lot of the symptoms that come from TMJ are a result of the inflammation that the joint dysfunction is causing. I have seen miraculous results from floating. If I'm going through a flare, that, is sometimes the first thing I'll think I want to do. Maybe some acupuncture and then get me into the float tank. Let's take the inflammation down. So I highly recommend that. And obviously, I work in nutrition and alternative health. Looking at your diet is certainly important. You want to cut down on inflammatory foods. That would be, simple carbs and sugar and caffeine. Caffeine more than anything is going to create, a tenseness or a tightness in the jaw. It's almost directly related. So unfortunately, I was a huge coffee drinker before I got TMJ, and I had to let that go. I would really encourage you to figure out what you need to do to get yourself off caffeine. That is a big one. There are, diets gearing more towards like paleo, Whole30. That can be good because, those are already very kind of there are low inflammatory foods involved in those diets. So that's an easy way to do that, to approach that. I will say, don't make yourself crazy over it. Sometimes when we're really hurting and we're really in pain and we're really struggling, the last thing we need is to be, deprived of simple pleasures. So take that with a grain of salt. Do what you can. Do what feels reasonable to you to clean up your diet. Don't go crazy. Or don't make yourself crazy. Don't induce more stress. And then find a mindfulness practice, find a meditation practice, start doing yoga, something that is going to help you corral your mind. Because I think, and this is true of any chronic illness, I think the worst of it can be, the toll it takes on us mentally and emotionally. And especially when you're in the worst of it, if you're in the beginning of, before you even had any treatment, or you're in the thick of treatment because it takes a while, for things to start to stabilize. It takes a while for things to start to get better. Sometimes they're going to get worse before they get better, and you have to be prepared to walk through that. And you need coping skills. I personally, I ended up taking a yoga teacher training. This was later on, in my treatment, where I was to a point where I felt like I could physically do that. But I mean, that's been one of the most healing things for me. I started doing yoga shortly after I developed TMJ, and it's the one thing that's been really consistent throughout my journey. And, obviously there are loads of physical benefits, but the mental, emotional, spiritual benefits have, far outweighed them, and really allowed me to shift my mindset, to one of, believing that, I would heal, and life would go on, as opposed to kind of just allowing myself to spin down that rabbit hole of despair and, oh my God, this is never going to be over. And what am I going to do? This, I'd rather be dead, because frankly, that's how it feels. And not to say that I don't, have moments of mental weakness, emotional weakness when I'm going through a flare, because I certainly do. But I have tools. I have so many tools now to handle that. So I don't know. I almost can't imagine traversing this disease without having some kind of mindfulness practice, some kind of meditation practice, and something, physical too, to kind of get you out of your head and into your body a little bit. And I know sometimes, with the symptoms, it can feel like it's impossible to do anything. There are really gentle forms of yoga that you can do just to get yourself kind of back in your body again. So I think that's really important. It's interesting, if you look at a lot of the common themes, common personality types among people that have severe TMJ, you're going to see a lot of type A people, people that like to be in control, people that don't like uncertainty, people that get things done or used to get things done. And a lot of times you see people that have like deep-seated anger. I mean, maybe from childhood. I know, I certainly did. And, those are things that you need to actively address when this disease is coming up. I mean, this is the time. This is the time to start doing that deep work. Get a therapist if you need it. And I really believe that in order to get to a place where you are functional, you have to treat the whole body, and I shouldn't say body, the whole person. Okay, so that includes your physical body, that includes your emotional body, and your spiritual body. I just don't see people getting better when they're not looking at the whole picture. Okay, so I think I've pretty much covered it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can offer you. There are some supplements that I would recommend just blanketly for anyone with TMJ to take. Make sure you're taking a high quality magnesium supplement. I can suggest the magnesium glycinate by Kal. Magnesium is going to help relax muscles. It's going to help inflammation. It's really, really important for anybody with joint issues to take magnesium. Turmeric is another good one, especially if you've been taking, handfuls of Advil to deal with this. That's really hard on your body long term. Turmeric is an excellent anti-inflammatory. You can get it in capsule form. I actually buy mine in powder in bulk from Star West Botanicals. You can find it on Amazon. And you can start taking like a half a teaspoon, and you can work yourself up to almost like a tablespoon of it a day, to help keep that inflammation at bay. Take a good B vitamin supplement, a methylated B vitamin supplement. I recommend a B complex by Thorne, methylated B complex by Thorne. You can find that on Amazon as well. Trying to think what else. Those would be the main supplements I would definitely recommend for TMJ. Oh, also, a collagen supplement would be great. The best the best collagen supplement I think is Great Lakes, and that's actually going to come in the powder form, and it's a little gross unless you can put it in you can put it in juice or something to make it taste better, but it's pretty gnarly. If you can't handle that, you can take the Youth Theory collagen, and you can find that on Amazon as well. That's essential material that joints need to actually start to rebuild themselves and repair themselves, I should say. Um, some kind of fish oil or DHA. I would recommend Carlson's cod liver oil. You can take it by the spoonful. They have a lemon flavor that's pretty tolerable, or you can get it in gel caps. Um, what else? I think that covers it. I think that covers the main things. One last thing I will mention for people dealing with actually two last things for people dealing with acute vertigo or dizziness. If it's really bad once in a while, this isn't like a long-term solution, but pop a couple of Sudafeds. Sometimes that helps take the edge off. It's like usually not a cure-all, but it might take the edge off. And it might help you just kind of get through it better. I still do that to this day. If I end up in a flare and I am finding myself with some unusually bad dizziness, I'll take a couple of Sudafed, and sometimes it's just enough to kind of get me through it. Also, if you are having extreme vision problems, see a vision therapist, particularly a behavioral ophthalmologist. In the Chicago area, I recommend Dr. Jeffrey Getzel. He's excellent, very eccentric, but he's very good. He helped me a lot. The vision problems for me were really the scariest part. And he actually was the person to say that I was presenting, or the first person to connect the dots and say I was presenting like like someone who had experienced a brain injury. And so he sort of postulated that with the TMJ being so severe, the cranial bones had shifted in such a way that it mimicked like a car crash or something like that, and was affecting my visual center in the same way as someone with a brain injury from a car crash. Anyway, he does a lot of rehab for brain injury patients, and he took me a long way. And then when I moved to California, I kind of had my list of exercises that I still do. I do some special light therapy that all really helps. I'm probably 95% better in that department than I was. I'm not quite back to where I was with my vision, but I'm much, much better. I'm functional. So find yourself a vision therapist. Do not waste your time going to a traditional optometrist. They'll look at you like you're crazy. They'll probably, suggest you see a psychiatrist. And the reason for that is their traditional optometrists are only looking at one eye at a time. And the problems typically that TMJ cause are with binocular vision, or how the eyes work together, how they work in tandem with one another. And only a vision therapist slash behavioral ophthalmologist is going to be able to look at that and have the diagnostics to, understand how that might be working or not working very well in your body. So save yourself the grief of going to, the ophthalmologist, the neuro-ophthalmologist. It's going to be just depressing because they won't have answers for you. And that's really hard when you go in with really intense symptoms and then nobody can tell you what to do about them. So go find a vision therapist first. I want to say, I think there's an organization called like NORA, N-O-R-A, I think, that specifically lists vision therapists that deal with like brain injury cases and that kind of thing. But anyway, I just wanted to put you, on the right track for handling that for some of you that are dealing with those issues as well. Okay, I think that is all I can think of. 25 minutes later, I can't believe this is so long. Yeah, I just, my heart goes out to every single one of you that approach me, because I know how devastating this is. I know how life-ruining it is. I know it ruins families. It devastates finances. it breaks up marriages, like on and on and on. I understand, and I don't want to leave you without any resources. Um, but I also have to kind of like, protect myself from kind of stepping back in that traumatic space to field questions all the time too. So I just thought this was maybe the best way to kind of, keep myself healthy and also, keep helping other people that need it. So I hope this was somewhat useful to you all. I wish you speedy healing and recovery.